This is a place called home. It may be yours or your neighbor's. That could be your car in the driveway. Or perhaps this is your home. And could that be you, busy on a little do-it-yourself project? Or is that you, taking it easy on this warm, pleasant weekend, in a private little world of your own, at home with your wife and children? In broad outline, this is the way of life for more than 50 million American families today. In our cities, in our smaller towns, on our farms, enjoying the comforts and conveniences of a standard of living regarded by the rest of the world as the miracle of the modern age.
Frankly, I don't see anything so miraculous about it. Okay, so we're the richest and the best-off nation on earth. But no wonder, look what we had to start with. Millions of acres of rich farmland, tremendous forest areas, and a wealth you couldn't even start to calculate in coal, iron, ore, and other minerals, to say nothing of all the other natural advantages. All of it right here for our taking. How could we miss?
Well, sir, we didn't miss. But it took more than natural resources to give us what we have today. This was America before the arrival of the first colonists. It was big, rich, fertile. A vast, undeveloped wilderness, supporting a primitive people eking out a precarious existence. What were to be the forces that would change this primitive land, with its untapped natural resources, to a nation supporting in a high degree of comfort 160 million persons? First, the spirit of achievement which the colonists brought with them to the New World. The spirit of enterprise and initiative, their willingness to face the unknown, their eagerness for a better life. From that spirit, there grew a new nation, with new political institutions, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights. And with these institutions came a new freedom of opportunity, the right to compete, the right of every man to do his best and to enjoy the fruits of his labor. And so, the miracle of America developed. Initiative, freedom, competition, and finally, as the young nation began to expand, one more necessary ingredient: transportation. For the miracle of America could never have been worked without the abundant, low-cost transportation which tied the nation together, which has made it possible to carry the resources of the whole continent to the places where they can be used to the best advantage. And so, America as we have it today is a product of its natural resources and of the energies of its people, working in the spirit of freedom and spurred on by the right to compete, all bound together by transportation.
That was a pretty wonderful story, wasn't it, Dad?
Sure was, son. You know, I'm beginning to see what you mean about the real reason for America's high standard of living. It certainly did take a lot of incentive, plus freedom of opportunity and commercial competition.
That's right. And it took other things. Among them, the widespread development of transportation for the easy distribution of raw materials, finished products, and, of course, people themselves. No transportation system anywhere in the world comes even close to ours for variety, dependability, economy, speed, and safety. But even so, Today, American travelers and shippers are not getting the most efficient and economical use out of this basic American industry. Oddly enough, while this nation grew and developed under the system of competition and free enterprise, you do not have the same kind of free play of competitive forces in the transportation industry. This means that price competition does not play its normal part in attracting traffic to the best and cheapest form of transport. You're probably wondering, what's the reason for this situation?
If there is a reason.
Oh, there's a reason, all right. It goes back to the federal laws regulating transportation. Laws which are being interpreted as meaning that a government agency shall regulate rates so that each form of transportation will get what the agency considers to be a fair share of the business, instead of leaving the division of traffic among the different kinds of transportation to be determined by competition in price as well as in service.
Well, what you're saying is that these laws put a clamp on competitive enterprise in the transportation industry.
By and large, that's just about it.
Why can't something be done about it? Why can't they bring the laws up to date and remedy the situation?
As a matter of fact, something along those lines has already been proposed. On July 12, 1954, the President of the United States established a committee to make a comprehensive review of overall federal transportation policies and problems. This committee consists of 5 cabinet members and 2 other high government officials. The cabinet committee was assisted by a working group of men eminently qualified in the fields of traffic, finance, and education. The working group asked all interested parties to present their views. Many of them, including the trucking industry and the railroads, did so. After months of study, the committee submitted to the President a unanimous report. Dated April 1955, it reviewed the nation's transport problems and recommended revision of the government's present transportation policies.
In brief, the principal emphasis of our report is that federal policy should be amended. 1, to permit greater reliance on competitive forces in transportation pricing. And 2, to assure the maintenance of a modernized and financially strong system of common carrier transportation, adequate to the needs of an expanding and ever dynamic economy and a national security.
In a news conference at the White House on May 4th, 1955, the President reported to the press of the nation that the basic principles of the report were commendable and that he approved of its purposes. Here are some excerpts from the report itself, starting with its opening sentence. Within the short span of 1 generation, this country has witnessed a transportation revolution. During this same period, government has failed to keep pace with this change. In many respects, government policy at present prevents or severely limits the realization of the most economical use of our transportation plant.
Well, that really seems to call for some kind of a remedy. I'm really interested, personally and from a business point of view. What I want to know is, well, whether something is being done to put the recommendation of the report into effect.
Yes, something definite and constructive, in the form of proposed legislation now before Congress. The proposed legislation would change the present law so as to permit greater freedom of competition in the pricing of transportation services. It would not give railroads any rights or privileges that other forms of transportation do not already have or would not have to the same extent under the new regulations. The power of the Interstate Commerce Commission to prohibit excessive rates would be continued. Its power to prohibit undue discrimination in transportation would be unchanged. And its power to prevent railroads or any other form of transportation from charging a below-cost rate would remain. But in the execution of that power, The proposed legislation provides that no form of transportation would be required to maintain rates higher than would otherwise be necessary, merely to protect the traffic and revenues of some other form of transportation. The proposed legislation recognizes that each of the competing forms of transport has advantages in handling different kinds of shipments, moving between different points and over different distances. In effect, each type of carrier would be given equal opportunity to do the job it can do best and at the lowest cost, subject always to the power of the Interstate Commerce Commission to prevent any carrier from charging rates which are below cost or which are above a reasonable maximum, or rates which discriminate between individuals, commodities, communities, or regions. In short, the new law would let competition between the different forms of transportation, competition in rates as well as competition in services, really work.
Sounds like good sense to me. But before we close the book on it, well, I'd like a quick breakdown. In terms of the results, if the new legislation is passed.
Very well, sir. Here it is. Let's put the question, who would benefit from passage of the proposed legislation? Shippers, who would have greater freedom to choose the means of transport they use on the basis of cost and service. Consumers, who would enjoy the benefits of goods transported at the lowest cost. Common carriers, whether by rail, highway, or water, with greater opportunity to use competitively the particular advantages each type of carrier possesses. National defense, which would gain strength from a stronger transportation system. The national economy, because it is based on mass production and continental distribution of its products, which, in turn, depend upon efficient and economical common carrier transportation. The nation as a whole, because strong and healthy transportation is essential to the orderly and healthful operation of its economy in peacetime, and is indispensable to its security in time of war. And you, as a producer, a consumer, and as a citizen. Its enactment into law would enable each form of transportation to do its best for the public. And the public, whether traveler or shipper, would be free to choose among the various forms on the basis of cost and service. The proposed legislation is based on an impartial analysis of our transportation problems as they exist in this modern age. Its enactment into law would enable each form of transportation to do for the public those things which it can do best, cost and service considered. This would mean more efficient transportation, more economical transportation, with savings for traveler, shipper, and consumer. And this would mean a higher standard of living, a more prosperous economy, and a stronger nation.